Hey guys, it's Alex here from alexfergus.com, and yes, this is the video where I announce the overall winner for the 2021 Body Panel Comparison of the Year series. Not only will I be announcing the winner, I'll also be sharing some special awards. There's some pretty interesting, pretty neat panels behind me, and some of these panels deserve special shout outs. I'll also be ranking these panels from best to worst. There's 12 panels. Actually, it'll be from worst to best to make it a bit more exciting. There's 12 panels behind me, and I've been testing these over the last few days, few weeks, actually technically over the last few months. I've had many of these panels here set up for many weeks now. And not only have I been using them, I've been quantifying them, testing their EMF levels, power, irradiance, flicker, sound, operations, everything you can imagine, all right? And I've been doing that to try and find the best overall red light therapy body panel. At the same time, I wanted to provide as much information as possible to help you make an informed decision and help you determine what is the best panel for your needs. Maybe you want a panel that's ultra low in EMF and you're not worried about price. Or maybe you're looking for a low price panel that puts out the most power. Everyone has their own goals and objectives, and that's why even though I'm going to be declaring an overall winner based on my scoring system, that winner may not be the panel that you decide to go with. Now I'm going to have to turn some of these panels off because there's a lot of heat coming out right now. I feel like I'm in the midday sun. Yes, I do have 12 panels behind me, but unfortunately I couldn't get them all running. It just loads the power circuits a bit too much. But I think about 9 out of 12 are running, and to be honest, it's quite a sight when you walk in and you see them all. It's also interesting seeing the different patterns and the different colors. You can probably spot the ones that use multi-wave technology with a slightly different red. If you have been following my series to date, thank you, and I'm as excited as you are to finally get to the end and see who is going to come out number one. If you haven't been following my series, and maybe this is the first time you've watched a video of mine, then welcome and thank you for stopping by. I will mention this has been quite an extensive series. We started video 0 where I introduced the series, and then we had 10 scoring rounds. I highly recommend going back and watching that if you have the time and you want to take a deep dive into all these panels. If you don't worry, because what I'll be doing is summarizing all of the results to date. I'll be giving you the key high points, the key low points, any big issues or any big achievements that any of these panels have had. I will be breaking that down in this summary video. For those of you that have watched all the videos and you don't want to rewatch that summary, please use the chapters below and you can skip ahead to wherever you want to, whether you want to skip straight ahead to the results. Just use that chapter function. For everyone else, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. What I'm going to be doing first is introducing all the panels, and then we're going to run through all the key rounds and, like I said, give you the key takeaways. Finally, if you're interested in any of these panels, whether it's just learning more about them or even buying one, I have done reviews on all of these panels on my YouTube channel, so you can check them out. Also, I'll put links, direct links to the product pages for all these panels below. Now, I should mention, I'm affiliated with 11 out of 12 of these panels, so that means I've got a discount code. That code is ALEX, A-L-E-X. If it doesn't work, check the comments below in case I've had to change it. But chances are that will save you anything from $25 up to 15% off these panels. I do get a little bit of a cutback if I am affiliated with these panels, but it helps me produce these videos that I'm doing today, so thank you. Finally, be sure to hit the subscribe button, because not only will I be doing more reviews and testing of red light therapy panels and other biohacking products, but I will be doing some follow-up videos based on this series. I'll be doing some other insights or things that I may have missed. I'll also be taking questions. If there are questions and you have a specific question about a product, or what my thoughts are between product A and product B, I'll be taking as many questions as possible and doing a video answering all of those. All right, let's get started. First things first, I'm going to cut the power to these panels by my glorious red light. And I do have my cheat sheet here because there's a lot to go through. First things first, what are the panels I have behind me? Working from my left to right, let's do a quick introduction, and as we introduce them, I'm also going to list off the price of these panels. In round 1 of this series, we talked about price, we talked about discount codes available, we also talked about shipping costs to America, but also to Australia and the UK. So for all the details, like I said, go back and check out round 1. But what I'm going to do is I introduce these panels. I will list the discounted price after using discount code ALEX. I'm not going to talk about shipping because I want to keep this a summary video. So first up, we have the Cyto LED Triplex. Now you can get this after discount code for $1,068. Then we have the Red Light Rising Advantage 900. After using discount code Alex, the price for this is $1,638. Next, we have the Platinum LED Biomax 600. This is the second gen Biomax. The first generation Biomax 600 actually come out #1 in my 2019 body panel series. You may have watched that. If not, feel free to go back and watch it. Remember, a lot has changed in the space since then. So, you can watch that for a bit of lighthearted entertainment, but really you want to see what these new panels are doing, not only from a features and functions point of view, but also from a power output. Anyway, back to the Platinum LED Biomax. This came in at $854 after using discount code Alex. Then we have the Rouge PRO. This is a new panel for me, and it sells for $990 US after discount code Alex. Then we have the Solbasium Optics 180, discounted price of $945. Back here we have the mighty Juve Solo 3.0. This is the third generation Juve. Juve have been a big part of my red light therapy journey. Back 2017, I think it was, I had the Juve Solo 1.0. Now we've got the third generation panel. This sells for $1,365. Unfortunately, I don't have a discount code to share with you on the Juve. Next to the Juve, we have the MitoPRO 1500. Now this sells for $1,092 after using discount code Alex. Next to that, we have the BlueBlox HIve Max, discounted $902 US. Then we have the LightPath LED large multi-wave panel, discounted price $1,115 US. And then over here we have the Gimbared Reboot. Now the Gimbared Reboot sells for $940 after using discount code. We have the Red Rush 720 Classic. This actually featured in my 2019 red light therapy comparison series. And so the only panel to reappear in 2021. All the other panels that I featured back then have had new additions or new and improvements. This one carries over, though the price has come down, which is pretty cool. Speaking of price, you can get this for $754 US. And then finally, we have the HIve Max. Now this panel sells for $809 after using discount code Alex. Now, if you're wondering, hey, what about the Juve Go or the Red Light Rising 1500, for instance? Yes, I know there's lots of other panels out there, small ones, big ones, handheld, facial masks. I wanted to focus on what I call body panels. Now, my definition of a red light therapy body panel is, first, it's a panel, like you can see behind me. And secondly, it has anything from 150 up to 300 LEDs. That's just a benchmark that I set. It just makes comparing panels a lot easier. Typically, these come in around that $1,000 price point. I think the lowest we saw was the Red Rush 720 at $754, and the most expensive was the Red Light Rising Advantage at $1,638. For me though, I really value body panels at or around that $1,000 price mark. Now again, I go into this in great detail in round one, so go back there and check it out. But I just want to run through the top 3 winners from that round. Like I said, the cheapest panel was the Red Rush 720 at a discounted price of $750. Behind that, in second place, was the HIve Max at $809. In third place, we had the Biomax 600 at $854. Okay, so those are the panels and the prices. Let's move on to the second round. In the second round, I tested for power output. This is where I used my spectrometer. I tested for what is known as irradiance. I actually tested 3 different metrics here: peak power, average power over 9 points, and also the total watts. In my reviews on these panels, I even test more metrics, so if you want to know all that data, check out those reviews. Alternatively, check out my red light therapy data sheet that I'll put a link to below, because I publish all the metrics I've tested in that spreadsheet, and that's free for you to access. Finally, I should mention, head over to alexfergus.com, and I've got a blog article running where I include all the data as well in that blog. Okay, so what are the key takeaways from round 2 where I do test peak power? What I'm going to do is rank the top, let's say the top 3 powered panels, any special mentions, and maybe mention the lowest powered panel as well. So the top powered panel from round 2 was the MitoPRO 1500. This put out a total wattage figure of 136.1 watts. It also had a peak irradiance of 88.2. In second place, we had the LightPath LED with 120 watts. And in third place, the Biomax 600 with 101 watts. That, however, the Biomax 600 had the highest irradiance, the highest peak power I've tested of any panel to date, and that reading was 92.9. Now, because the Biomax 600 is a little bit smaller, it has less LEDs than the LightPath LED and the MitoPRO, it is only natural that it has a slightly less total wattage figure. And some would be saying, well, how would the Biomax 900 go? Well, like I said, the Biomax 600 had a higher peak power than the 900 when I tested that previously. And I'm told that the 900 had less power go into the LEDs due to an engineering decision. So I think the 600 is still probably the better panel from a power point of view. Remember though, it's not all about power, okay? We look at price, we look at operations, we look at warranty, all these things, and that helps determine the best panel, which I'll be getting to soon. To put things in perspective, at the bottom of the table, we had the Red Reboot and the BlueBlox HIve. They were only putting out about 43 watts. Okay, so in the third round, I looked at value. I'm not gonna get into too many details here because again, you can go back and watch that and learn all about it and my justifications and reasonings and how I come up with the calculations. So again, what I'm gonna do is rank the top 3 panels and also, to put things in perspective, share 1 or 2 of the lower performing panels. So in first place for this round, again, we had the MitoPRO 1500. Now this had a $1 per watt figure of $8.02. In second place, we had the HIve Max. This had a $1 per watt figure of $8.30. And in third place, we had the Biomax 600, $8.45 that panel had. Now in last place, we had the Red Light Rising Avantage 900. This had a figure of $28.30. You can see how good those top 3 were at around the $8 mark. Red Light Rising up at $28. Everyone else fell in between that range. Now in round 4, I used my electrosmog EMF meter and I tested these panels for EMF output at 3 inches and 6 inches. I tested electric fields and magnetic fields. I ranked them all based on their outputs, and I can say now that most of the panels are offering really good EMF levels. It's a big turnaround since 2021. All these panels have dramatically improved. Well, most of them, actually. One has taken a bit of a backwards step. But most of them have improved, and even the new players have put out some really good EMF levels. So much so that I decided to test at 3 inches, which is closer to the panel, because the readings at 6 inches were all pretty much rock bottom. Again, what I'm going to do is read out the top 3 panels from that round, and then also 1 or 2 of the bottom panels. So in first place again was the MitoPRO 1500. In second place was the Biomax 600, and in third place was the Red Reboot. Now all of these panels had very safe levels at 6 inches, and it was only when you got up to the 3 inch there was a bit of a reading. It was very tiny though, and the lowest out of all of these panels I tested. At the bottom though, we had the Juve coming in 11th place and the old Red Rush 720 coming in at last. The Red Rush 720 was quite bad. It had bad readings at 3 inches and 6 inches. What surprised me though was the Juve. Juve used to be pretty good for EMF issues, but now with this new panel, the 3rd generation panel, they don't have a grounding pin in their power cord, and that meant they had quite a high electric field reading at both 6 and 3 inches. To be honest, it's a bit of an oversight from Juve because that's a 30-second fix from an engineering point of view and probably would only add like another $1 to the cost, if that. So it's a bit of a bummer, and that cost Juve dearly for overall points. In round 5, we looked at the LEDs, the wavelengths they're putting out, and any pulsing technologies that the panels may use. So in first place, we had the LightPath LED. Now this panel has pulsing technology that you can customize from 1 Hertz right through to 10,000, which is quite amazing. They also use multi-wave LEDs, so there's 5 wavelengths in there, and they have 255 LEDs in that large panel. In second place was the MitoPRO 1500. They don't offer pulsing, but they utilize 4 wavelengths and 300 LEDs. In third place was the Biomax 600. That panel doesn't offer pulsing either, but they utilize 5 wavelengths but only have 200 LEDs. I should just mention that there was only one other panel that offered pulsing, and that was the Juve. Juve came in at 5th place in this round because they only offer 2 wavelengths, 660 and 850, and they only have 150 LEDs. But because of the pulsing, it did bump them up a little bit. In last place, we had the BlueBlox Max HIve, 200 LEDs, no pulsing, and only 2 wavelengths. So remember, I have 10 scoring rounds. Now I've given you a summary on 5, so I thought what I'd do is quickly pull up the overall standings after 5 rounds. All right, so when we pull up the scoreboard, we can see that some of those names are rightfully so in the top 3. In first equal, we have the MitoPRO 1500 and the Biomax 600. Now what's interesting is the MitoPRO and the Biomax are very different when it comes to price. In fact, the MitoPRO only got 4 points for the price rounds compared to the Biomax 600, which got 10. But since then, we've had 3 wins for the MitoPRO 1500. They took out power, they took out value, and they took out EMF. But the Biomax was very close behind in second or third for most of those things. So it's interesting that they're neck and neck, because these are the 2 panels that I get asked about the most. Which should I buy, the MitoPRO or the Biomax? So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they perform over the next 5 rounds. In third place, we have the HIve Max on 42, 9 points behind the leaders, so that's quite a big chunk, quite a big gap already, but still we're only halfway through, so it's anyone's game. Beneath that, we have the Light Path LED on 38, and then all the other players. If we look at the bottom, surprisingly, Juve Solo is in 10th place. Then we have the Red Light Rising Avantage 900, and then in last place, the Blue Block's HIve Max. The Juve suffered a bit with the price. It was very expensive, and then also that EMF round. I would expect them to perform a little bit better later on, though, with some of the last rounds. So don't write them off yet, though it's hard to see them coming out in the top position, given how far behind they are already. Alrighties, now for the second half. So remember, there's still 5 scoring rounds to go. Now in round 6, I tested for flicker and sound output. I've got articles on flicker if you're curious as to why I'm testing flicker, and the sound, I explain why I test sound and the potential issues you can have in that round 6 video, so I highly recommend checking that out. Now in first place for sound and flicker, with max points, we had the HIve Max. They had no flicker and a super quiet 47.5 decibel reading, which is really good. We then had 3 panels in second place. This was the Solbasium Optics 180, the Red Reboot, and the Cyto LED Triplex. All of these panels were flicker free and had about 50 decibels sound output, which was really nice. In last place, we had the Rouge PRO. This had a lot of flicker and had a sound reading of 55.4 decibel readings. I also need to mention the Juve. Now Juve came in at 9th place. They didn't have any flicker in their LEDs, which is great, but they had a whopping 62.1 decibel readings from their panel. Not only that, the sound was quite irritating. Again, I explain more in my dedicated review of the Juve Solo, but also in the round 6 video, so be sure to check that out. And since after 5 rounds, the MitoPRO and the Biomax were both neck and neck at first equal on the same points, what I thought I'd do is mention how they placed in each of these rounds going forward, so you can see how they're sitting as we move forward. So I can tell you now, both MitoPRO and Biomax scored equal points here. They pretty much came in with identical figures. So after 6 rounds, they're still sitting in the same position. Okay, in round 7, I looked at warranty, customer care, support, and returns. In first place for this round was the Red Light Rising Avantage 900. These guys not only had the best warranty by far with a 5-year warranty period, which is insane, but they also offer a free call opportunity with the founders. You can call them up and ask about their products, panels, setup, or other red light therapy questions. So that's a nice add-on. In second place, we had the Light Path LED panel. They had a 3-year warranty with a 60-day return period. But if you purchase one of these panels, you get a free 20-minute call with the founder, which is really good. We then had a bunch of panels that come in with a 3-year warranty period. In this pack included the MitoPRO 1500 and the Biomax 600. So both of them had 3-year warranties, meaning they both score the same again. So they're still locked on the same points. And in last place, we had 2 panels, the Red Reboot and the Blue Block's HIve Max, that only offered a 1-year warranty, which is quite disappointing. So 5 years was the top, 1 year was the bottom. Most of the panels come in around 3 though. Okay, so now in round 8, I introduced something new. I've only just started talking about it in my reviews and in some of my articles, and this is hotspot testing. Again, I don't want to explain it all in this video because I've done that in great depth in my blog article and in the round 8 video. So be sure to check that out if you want to know more about it. But what I'm going to do now is list off the top performers for this category. Pretty much I grouped all the panels into one of 3 groups. They're either great, okay, or poor. Now there were 5 panels that performed great. One of them was the Red Light Avantage 900. The other one was the MitoPRO 1500. The third was the Rouge PRO, the fourth, the Red Reboot, and the fifth was the Blue Block's HIve Max. They all performed top of the table, so good on them. Then we had 3 panels in the okay range and then 4 as poor performers. I don't want to break down all of this because, like I said, I've already done it before, but I do want to point out 2 key names here. The first one being Juve. Unfortunately, they performed quite poorly in this round, and the second one is the Biomax 600. Now if you remember, the MitoPRO 1500 came out in that great category. The Biomax 600 was in the poor. So it's the first time in many rounds that the Biomax and the MitoPRO are going to be on different points. It is quite unfortunate because the Biomax is a great panel, but when it came down to the hotspot effect or the polka dot effect as some call it, they just didn't perform as well as the MitoPRO. It's as simple as that. You get a much better blend of light with the MitoPRO than you do with the Biomax. But we still have 2 more rounds, so it's anyone's game still. But what I'll do quickly is pull up the leaderboard after 8 rounds and we can see how everyone's sitting. So as you can see, yes, the MitoPRO has jumped down in front. They're in first all on their own with 75.1, and Biomax have not only slipped into second, they're now sharing second with the HIve Max, which is on 68 points. And there's a big gap down to 4th place with the LightPath LED 58 on 58 points. Juve is still slipping at the bottom there, 11th place, only just above Blue Block's HIve Max. Okay, so 2 more scoring rounds. Now, can MitoRed hang on to that first place, or is the Biomax going to surge a late comeback? And what about the HIve as well? How are they going to go? It's very interesting that they've just snuck up there and sitting on second equal. Now, in round 9, I looked at operation and ease of use. Now, I've used all of these panels, some of them for many, many months. As I've used a lot of different red light therapy panels over the years, I've noticed some things that are really good and some things that really suck. And as a result, I've realized, hey, all panels should ideally have this and they shouldn't have that. From there, I built a checklist, and that's how I scored all the panels for this round. In the operations round, I tested for things such as the ability to switch between wavelengths, inbuilt timers, how easy it was to understand the menus, how easy it was to press the buttons, and I also accounted for any negatives that may have popped up. Now, for the scoring breakdown of this round, there was 1 winner, and then there were about 6 panels that were very closely behind the winner. Now, the winner here was the Juve Solo. Now, it's really interesting because the Juve were doing pretty average, I mean below average. They were quite low on the scoring there, and they really struggled in some of the rounds. So for them to get a win here is going to see them jump up the overall leaderboard, which is really good to see. They have a really nice panel that's really simple to use. It does everything you need plus more. The only downside, and this is me being very picky, is some of the functions that they use, you have to have your app to use them. You can't do it on the control panel itself. We then had 6 panels in second equal, and I can tell you now that the MitoPRO 1500, the HIve Max, and the Biomax 600 were all in that group. So what that means for the overall leaderboard is that top 3 position, no one changes. MitoPRO is still on first, and the Biomax 600 and the HIve Max are on second equal. So it's going to come down to the last round. In last place, though, we had the LightPath LED, and unfortunately these guys were sitting on 4th place, so any chances of they had of skyrocketing into the top 1 or 2 positions are now pretty much well and truly gone. Now, if you've seen my reviews on the LightPath LED or seen my first impressions video, it's a bit of a laugh. I highly recommend checking it out. You'll know exactly why they scored so poorly here in this round. Okay, lucky last, round 10. This is where I looked at everything else. It was all those interesting things that certain panels have that others don't, or some really great features, or some other things that I needed to test and compare, but they weren't worthy of their own round. I added all of this stuff into the last round, the everything else round. And remember, this was the last round of scoring, so a lot came down to this, and soon we'll be able to find out who did come out overall winner. Now, real quick, I'll just rattle off a few key things I tested here in this round. It was things such as whether the panels came with a decent manual, whether they had the ability to support multiple panels in the modular system, whether they came with any special accessories or advanced features that I hadn't mentioned to date, all those sort of things. Now, when we look at the winner here, what's interesting is the Juve Solo came out number 1 again. So they timed their run very late. Unfortunately, it's going to be too little and too late. It will mean, though, that they will shoot up to the mid-pack in the overall standings, which I think is a true representation of where they sit. But we'll talk about the overall standings and all that later on. In second place, what is very interesting here was the Biomax 600. So that's going to make it very interesting. We're soon going to find out where the MitoPRO 1500 sits, because remember, the Biomax was behind the MitoPRO. It's going to be interesting to see if the Biomax can catch up and overtake the MitoPRO. We then had 4 panels that came in at third equal. This included the LightPath LED panel, the HIve Max, which was neck and neck with the Biomax, the MitoPRO 1500, and the Solbasium 180. So it's going to be very interesting when we crunch these numbers to see how that final standing sits, because there has been some movement there, so very, very interesting. I won't rattle through the rest of the panels because again, you can see this on the blog or in the round 10 video. In last place though, well, second to last place was the Blue Block's HIve Max, and in last place was the Cyto LED Triplex. All right guys, welcome to the awards section of this video. Whew, what a journey, huh? There's been many hours of work, testing, time, editing has gone into this, so I'm so excited to finally get here. And I also thank all the people that have been long-time subscribers and have been asking about this video and encouraging me and also pointing out, you know, hey, there's these new panels, have you heard of them? I really do appreciate it, and to be honest, without you guys, I don't know if this would have happened, whether I would have been too lazy, whether I wouldn't have been motivated to do it, or whether I would have even done it because I didn't think there would have been enough interest. But so I do want to thank you, and I do want to apologize that it has taken so long to get it out. I mean, we did have some big issues with supply chain and some companies with some new models that got delayed. Yeah, there have been lots of issues, but hey, we're here now. We're here right at the end. We're about to announce the winners. I've done all the testing, I've crunched the numbers, and we've got the overall standings. So I'm gonna reveal them to you very soon. But before we go into the overall standings, what I want to do first is announce some special category winners, all right? These are panels that may not have achieved overall greatness, but in their own special way, it sounds very, you know, handing out achievement awards, right, for everyone. But they deserve attention or recognition, because that's the thing with this video, right? And my scoring system. You may not agree with the way I've scored this. I know some companies out there who have supplied panels here or, you know, manufacturing some of these panels. They're not gonna agree with it. They're gonna think their panel's the best no matter what, right? I've had to come up with a scoring system that I think is fair, and I really do think this scoring system I've used this year is quite good. I'm quite proud of it. Back in 2019, I knew there were a lot of flaws with the scoring system back then, but I was like, hey, it's the best I can come up with now. This year, I've actually been tweaking the scoring system for a long time, like trying to find something that was fair and included all aspects. And also introducing new things such as the hotspot testing, you know, things that may impact how well these panels are performing on our health. So I think what I've done is pretty good, and I think it's going to show what is a good overall panel and hey, what may not be as good. Speaking of that though, real quick, I should mention that look, all of these panels are going to do what they're meant to do. They're all putting out a good amount of therapeutic red light therapy. If you own any of these panels and the panel comes in last or second to last, don't think that you've got a dud, because that's not the case. All I'm trying to do is find out which ones are the best, which ones have the best features, have the best warranty, put out good power, use multiple wavelengths, all those sort of things, right? But you may disagree with it. You may think that, no, the fourth place panel is the best for you. That's the other thing. Everyone has different priorities. Some people may really care about EMF levels, other people may not. It may mean a panel that got last place in EMF may be the perfect panel for you because it ticks boxes in other areas. That's why I've broken these videos down into different sections. It's why I publish all the data in my red light therapy data sheet and over at the blog. So you can go in and do your own number crunching and make your own decision. Okay, so before we do the overall rankings, let's touch on the special awards. First up, I have the highest peak Irradiance. Now back in 2019, this is how I scored in my power round. I just looked for peak power Irradiance and that's how I ranked it. I've since improved that testing and now I use total watts. But I did want to mention which panel came out #1 for the highest power. And not only was it the highest power from these 12 panels, it's the highest power that I've ever seen in all my years testing panels. And I've got some big expensive panels in here, and even those panels haven't achieved the numbers that this panel that I'm about to mention. And that panel is the Platinum LED Biomax 600. This had a peak Irradiance score of 92.9 milliwatts over centimeter squared, which was insane. If you're a numbers man and you just want the biggest and the most powerful panel out there, then hey, highly consider the Biomax 600. And the Biomax 600 actually came out in third place for the total watts output as well. It is a little bit smaller than some of the other panels, hence why the total watts was a little bit less. But from a purely peak power point of view, you can't go past the Biomax. My next special award goes to the panel that is the safest to use. And by safest, I mean no flicker, ultra low EMF, and very quiet. Now there's two winners here. One of them is the HIve Max, the other one is the Reboot. Both of these scored 20 points when I added up the EMF and the sound flicker rounds. If you want to get picky and choose which one's better, it depends if you care more about EMF or more about the sound. The Reboot did have a very slightly better EMF number, so if you're purely worried about EMF, you may want to go with the Gemba. So congrats, both of those panels are exceptionally safe to use, though I should mention pretty much all of the panels are safe. It's just as you get closer to some, you are getting some higher EMF readings, and only 2 panels had flicker. So next up, I have the most advanced panel. Now this goes to LightPath LED. Why? Well, there's so many things you can do with this panel that you can't with other panels. The fact that you can customize the pulsing rate from 1 Hertz right through to 9,999 with either red or near infrared light is quite amazing. Only one other panel out of the 12 behind me offered pulsing, and that was the Juve, but it was fixed with 10 Hertz with near infrared light only. If you want to really geek out and play around with pulsing and different frequency rates with different wavelengths, then the LightPath LED is the panel for you. Even if you're not worried about frequency and no-gear pulsing and all that stuff, it's still an exceptionally good panel. But for those that are really into biohacking and advanced technology, then the LightPath LED is the one to check out. Next up, we have an award for the best customer care. Now, Red Light Rising 900 takes this out. Their panels come with a 5-year warranty, plus you get a free call with the founders of the team. 5 years is exceptional. Back in 2019, the best warranty you could get was 3 years. Most were around 1, maybe 2-year warranties. Now in 2021, 5 years is the best. That's a huge jump. And knowing that you're getting 5 years warranty is great when you're spending, $1,000 or $1,600 in the case of the Avantage 900. I should also give a shout out to LightPath LED. They have a 3-year warranty period and also do a free customer care call. There's 2 more special category winners before we announce the overall winner. Next up is the lowest EMF panel. This was the MitoPRO 1500. They had no detectable EMF at 6 inches for electric or magnetic. When we got to 3 inches, there was still no detectable EMF for electric fields, though there was a very small amount of magnetic, but they were the best compared to all the other panels. I should mention though, if you're really worried about EMF, go back and check the EMF video because there's other panels out there that are also really good. It's just that the MitoPRO 1500 was the best. Finally, we have the best red light therapy panel for the penny pincher, those that are on a really strict budget. Now, I could simply award this to the cheapest panel behind me, which would be the Red Rush 720, but I can't because for $50 more, you can get the HIve Max. Now, the difference between the HIve Max and the Red Rush 720 in terms of power and performance and functionality is quite a lot. Hence why I have to say the HIve Max is the best panel for those on a tight budget. I should also give a shout out to the Biomax 600. That's only $50 more than the HIve Max. Exceptional value and also some great performance, and in some areas it's better than HIve Max. And if you're on a super tight budget and can't spend any more than say $850, definitely check them out. But one of the main reasons Infrared takes the cake here is because they offer free international shipping. The Biomax, you're only getting free shipping to the USA. Okay, here we are. The final scores have been crunched. I'm gonna rank all of these panels from last place, 12th place, right through to first. Now in 12th place on a score of 44.5, we have the Blue Block's HIve Max. In 11th place on a score of 50 points, we have the Red Rush 720 Classic. In 10th place, we have the Saito LED Triplex. This came in with a score of 51.5. Now in 9th place, we had the Gemba Reboot with a score of 54.5. In 8th place, with a score of 55 points, was the Rouge PRO. In 7th place, with a score of 59.5, was the Juve Solo 3.0. Now, like I said earlier, I thought the Juve Solo would finish around mid-pack because I think that's a true representation of where it sits compared to these other panels. With the 2 wins in the last 2 rounds, it really did bump them up though because they were sitting pretty low going into those rounds. Now in 6th place, we have the Red Light Rising, the Avantage 900. This came in with a score of 62 points. It's a respectable position for a panel that is very, very expensive. Remember, this is the most expensive panel behind me. Even with discount code Alex, it came out to be $1,600. But the panel does have some good features and hence it comes in at 6th place. All right, we're down to the top 5. What I'm gonna do is get these 5 hanging behind me in no particular order. We'll come in close and we'll share the results. With a score of 67.5, in 5th place, we have the LightPath LED Large Multi-Wave Panel. Now, this panel, I always knew it was going to do well. When I reviewed it many months ago, though I had some frustrations and there were some quite strong downsides with this panel, I always knew it would do well.
It's putting out really good power numbers. I think it got second place in the total wattage power output round, so that's exceptional. Pretty good value as well. Top 3, top 4 finish there in the value round. So those two things alone make it quite attractive. And then of course you add in the no-GF frequencies that are built into the panel, the fact that you can customize the pulsing rate from anything from 1 to 10,000 hertz. There's a lot going on with this panel, and at the same time that could maybe be seen as a downside, especially when it comes to the controls. So, and in fact, just the basic features of the panel itself really let this panel down. It placed last in round 9 in the operation round, and that was just because it was so frustrating to use. That cost the LightPath LED big time. If it finished mid-pack there or even a little bit higher, we probably would have seen a 4th. We could have even got it higher up in the rankings. But a 5th place out of 12 panels is a very respectable finish, and I know there's a lot of passionate LightPath LED customers who have been commenting on my series, so they'll be happy with this top 5 place. LightPath LED, I think if they go away and fix some of these minor issues that I discovered, then I wouldn't be surprised if we see even a stronger finish in the years to come.
Now in 4th place with a score of 72.5, a good 5 points ahead of 5th place, but well behind the top 3. Still a respectable score though, was the Solbasium Optics 180, this panel right here. Now I do have to say, if you've seen my review of this panel, I was probably a little bit too critical now in hindsight with this panel. The thing is with this panel is it's good overall, right? Like it just does everything good, but it's not great, it's not amazing. It doesn't have the standout features and functionality that some of these other panels have. The thing is with this panel though, is it's just done well across the board. If we look at the scores here, we're seeing 7s, 5s, 9s, a 10, a 2, a 5 and 8. I mean, it's average, I guess, but it's not, because it's placed 4th overall out of 12 panels, and some of these panels are very, very good panels. So that makes the Solbasium a great panel. And like I said, I guess I was a bit critical in my review. So congratulations, Solbasium. You guys have placed 4th out of 12. It's the first time you've entered in this competition. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with in the coming years. And these guys are an Aussie-based company, so for those of you in Australia, definitely check this out. They do ship internationally though, so congratulations. And now we're down to 3. And then there were 3. Now in 3rd place with a score of 85 points, only 2.5 points behind 2nd place, was the HIve Max 2021, this panel right here. Now I do have to be completely honest, I nearly forgot about the HIve. I've had this panel for a while now, but I hadn't got around to testing it. I hadn't done my full review like I had with a lot of the other panels. And in fact, it wasn't until I was setting up this competition that I realized, oh gosh, this is the HIve Max panel, whoops. So I spent a bit of time with it, tested it over a few days, getting everything set up for this series, and I was impressed. But it wasn't until I actually started testing it and then scoring it that I realized, you know what, this is a really, really good panel. And I can see why a lot of people rave about HIve and have been asking me to review it and to see how it compares. So I do apologize, HIve, and I apologize for all the people that have been asking about this. I wish I'd looked into it sooner, because it's placed 3rd out of 12 in my 2021 body panel comparison series. When we look back at the scores, we see that the HIve Max was always up there, 11, 9, 11, 8, 12, 8. Sure, there was the odd bad performance. It only got 3 points in the LED section, but then it came out number 1 for flicker and sound. So it's a good panel. I mean, it placed 3rd, right? How can it not be good? So I do need to say, again, congratulations. For those of you who have an HIve, you will now know that yes, it is a good panel. For those of you who have been looking at HIve, hey, definitely consider it. But remember, we still have 2 more places to go. Okay, we're down to 2. So we have the MitoPRO 1500 and the Platinum LED Biomax 600. Now what's crazy is these 2 companies had the top 2 panels back in 2019 when I compared them. And in fact, these 2 panels are what I get asked about the most. Which one should I buy, the MitoPRO or the Biomax? And it's like, oh my God, I don't know. Because they're so good. They're both really, really good panels. They're good companies. They've been around for a long time now. Platinum LED has been around longer than MitoRed, but you know, it's not like they're a new company on the scene in the last year or so. I personally have been using the Biomax panels for a long time, and it's what I recommend to my clients and my family in that. Part of that is because they came out top in 2019 as a top panel, and the other reason is they use multi-wave technology. They got the 5 wavelengths. MitoRed only used to have the 2, 660 and 850. With the new MitoPRO range that came out in 2021 though, they also use multi-wave technology. In fact, they got 4 wavelengths and they've got more power going to some of those alternative wavelengths compared to the Biomax. They're very, very similar though. When you look at their website, pricing wise, spec wise, very, very similar. It's always been really hard to say which one is better. And I know a lot of you have been hanging out to see, hey, which one should I go with? And as we saw during the scoring rounds, they were like neck and neck, pretty much right through. So it's not like one is 20 times better than the other or anything like that. It's like comparing a top of the range BMW or top of the range Mercedes-Benz. You're getting a good car with either outcome. But the numbers don't lie, and I do have to announce a winner. The overall winner for my 2021 Red Light Therapy Body Panel Series is, drum roll please, the MitoRed MitoPRO 1500. Boom. The MitoPRO came out with a score of 92.5. Now the Platinum LED Biomax came out with a score of 87.5. So there was a bit of a difference there in the end, and that was all due to that hotspot round. So congratulations MitoRed, you've done exceptionally well. You placed second in 2019. You've went back to the drawing board, come out with an entirely new product range, the MitoPRO, and here we are as the top panel in my 2021 comparison. Platinum LED, very hard luck. I mean, yeah, what can I say? You've come up with some amazing technology with the control panel, touchscreen control panel. The power in this panel is insane, the highest peak power I've ever tested, but it just fell short in one little area, I guess, and that was with the hotspot testing. But it didn't quite have enough to take out #1 over the MitoRed this year. So what can I say? Like, I'm almost speechless because it was so close, and even saying that, oh, the MitoRed came out on top, it's almost like, how can you say that? They're so close, right? So congratulations to them both, but like I said, the points don't lie. The MitoPRO 1500, #1 panel for the 2021 Red Light Therapy Body Panel Series. So, hey, what do you think? I hope that you've enjoyed all of this, and if you do want to run out and get this panel, or of course the Platinum LED panel, or any of the other panels, I'll put links to them below. Discount code Alex is going to save you, well, it depends on the panel. It could save you 25 bucks, it could save you 15%, depending on which one you're getting. But this panel here, the MitoPRO 1500, you can get it for a bit over $1,000. That's after using discount code Alex. Multi-wave technology, 4 wavelengths, ultra low EMF, great sound, great flicker, great warranty, great customer care. Great ease of use, great operations. I mean, it ticks all the boxes. When you look at the rankings, we can see that the MitoPRO got top of the table in 3 rounds and second place in 1 or 2 rounds. It was always up there, right? The lowest score it had was a 4, and that was in round 1. And that's just simply because of the price. It is a large panel. This does have 300 LEDs. If you look down a little bit here, you can see how it is a much larger panel compared to the Biomax. The Biomax only has 200 LEDs. Now some of you may be thinking, hey, what about the Biomax 900? That has 300 LEDs. How would that compare? And that's a great question. The key thing to remember though is the Biomax 900 doesn't add the extra LEDs from a vertical point of view, it actually gets wider. The MitoRed has a little bit more width and it's longer. I think actually it's a really good size. The thing is with the 900 though, if you get 2 of them, you stack them on top and you get a really tall high panel. Now, I will get around to doing a direct head-to-head between the Biomax 900 and the MitoPRO 1500, but like I've said earlier in these rounds, the power isn't quite the same in the Biomax 900 as it is in the 600. And the 600 is also a lot cheaper. So, if you want, based on my scoring system, if you want the best red light therapy panel for 2021 and even into 2022, then the MitoRed MitoPRO 1500 is the panel to get. So that is not only the end of this video, it is also the end of this entire series. So I thank you for coming along on the journey. All the comments, the likes, the support, the encouragement. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And I also want to thank all the red light therapy companies out there. You're doing great things. I know it's a hotly contested market, but at the end of the day, you're making panels that are helping people. with their health and recovery, which is awesome. Before we go, if you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please leave your comments and feedback and questions. I read them all and I respond to them all, though it does take me a little bit of time because I get a lot. And if you did want to buy any of these panels, be sure to use discount code ALEX, ALEX. It will save you a little bit of cash and it will help me continue to fund projects such as this. Finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because I will be doing some follow-up videos based on this. If you've got any questions, I'm going to do a Q&A video as well to answer any of them. And I'm going to be doing more reviews and more testing as more panels come out. In fact, I've still got a bunch of panels inside that I haven't even tested. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. And in maybe 2 years' time, I'll do another one of these. I think every 2 years is a good time to get new panels on the market, test them, sit down and do a big comparison series. So, I thank you again and I hope you've enjoyed it. All right guys, bye-bye.